you very much. Chairman Stiles, I disagree with you on what you said when you began. Because what I believe undermines Americans' confidence in our elections is not the laws or the lack thereof. It's the lies coming from the White House. I mean, I don't know whether you conveniently forgot, but when Donald Trump lost the election to Joe Biden, do you remember the call he made to the Secretary of State of Georgia, asking him to find 11,700 votes? I mean, it's recorded if you haven't heard it. And he went out there and just blatantly lied, and not only lied, but asked the Secretary of State to come up with votes, you know, to stuff the ballot boxes, if you will, so that he could end up winning in Georgia. I mean, that's what undermines people's confidence in our elections. And thankfully, and again, I don't always say complimentary things about Republicans, but the Republicans in charge of the state of Georgia actually did the right thing. They stood up to his pressure, and they insisted on maintaining the integrity of the election. I mean, Chairman Steil, President Trump falsely claimed on Friday, yet again, that he won Minnesota all 3 times. He said, quote, "I won it all 3 times." And let me ask you, do you agree that Donald Trump won Minnesota 3 times?
I'll let the president speak for himself. He has plenty of people that can answer the question.
I was just asking you. Do you have an opinion on whether?
I think the electoral votes have been counted, and they've been counted.
Well, not the electoral votes. I'm talking about the people who voted to give him the electoral votes. Did he win or not? Did he? I mean, he either won or
he won the election. He's the president of the United States.
Did he win Minnesota 3 times? I mean, I can't even believe you can't even bring yourself to say yes on that. I mean, if you thought that he lost if you thought that the election was stolen from him, you know, or he didn't win it, or all this garbage that he says is true, you would say it. But you all know the truth, and you go along with this. And that's what undermines people's confidence in our election. They hear all this BS, and none of you have the guts to stand up and say enough. No, Donald Trump, you lost Minnesota 3 times. You lost the election to Joe Biden. Yeah, you may have won it in the last time around, but the bottom line is we ought to just speak the truth. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I don't understand the reluctance to to just state the fact. I mean, boy, I'll tell you that's people are watching this and going, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. You know, I mean, I think this entire exercise is insulting. I mean, America doesn't need saving, and certainly doesn't need saving from a group of people who want to turn over the voter rolls to a federal department that shot American citizens in our streets. And I think it's preposterous that the same Republicans who have spent their entire careers demanding that states, not the government, but states should run their elections, are now suddenly begging for federal intervention. I think we should all know about. I think we all know what this is about. So let's dig into some of the details. Chairman Stiles, I have here. This is the Save America Act, as introduced by Representative Roy just 10 days ago. It has significant changes from the previously considered SAVE Act. Then we have this Rules Committee print right here of the Save America Act. It was posted around 4 o'clock last Friday, which again makes more large substantive changes to the bill. And then here is we have your manager's amendment here, posted at 9:30 this morning, which doesn't just make technical corrections. It actually makes huge changes, including when major provisions of the bill would take effect. I mean, look at all these changes. Look at all these changes, none of them made in a committee markup. And you want us to believe that with 0 debate in committee on any of these changes, that this is ready to go straight to the floor?
We've had robust debate. The ranking member and I think, could both attest that we've had substantial conversations and debate of the underlying.
There's all these changes that have just been made. I've just given you in a very short period of time, and I'm just asking. And you know, if you think that, you know, the answer is yes, that it's ready to go to the floor, just say yes. But I mean, is this the way the committee process is supposed to work? Major substantive changes, you know, 3 different documents that we're working off of here. And we're going to, go right to the Rules Committee and go right to the floor, and nobody has to worry about anything. I mean, do you really think this is ready?
It's a 32-page bill. I think that the time required to read a 32-page bill was
No
sufficient.
hearings, no markup, 3 totally different versions of this bill in a 10-day period. Did you have a hearing in your committee today?
We did have a hearing in the
And
committee.
what was the
today.
topic on?
Election integrity.
Yeah, and, but why aren't we dealing with was it on legislation or?
It was a hearing. It was not a markup. That's the question.
But you could have met today on this with your committee and gone over, in excruciating details, all the changes that are being made here. So you met on a different issue, not on this bill. And so, again, we're on the Rules Committee, this is a process committee, but this is a lousy process, and I'll tell you, lousy process leads to lousy policy. Ranking Member Morelli, as you know, primary elections start in just a few weeks, right? Am I correct in stating that there is zero chance that any state could possibly implement an extremely complicated new voter ID law in just a couple of weeks?
Well, in fact, at the hearing this morning, we had the former head of elections for North Carolina who said the bill was unworkable because of this. We have 5 states that you note, including Texas's primary is on March 3rd. UOCAVA ballots have already been mailed to people, so it's impossible to comply. And I think, frankly, it shows what a lack of seriousness this bill has that you would change the effective date to immediately within the last 24 hours.
Yeah. Chairman Stiles, in your manager's amendment, you remove the 2027 effective date and make it effective immediately. I don't know if that was because of one of your fellow Republicans did a tweet about it, or because, you think it's a good idea, but we have elections coming up in a few weeks. How are states supposed to comply with all of this in a few weeks?
Well, let's break down the 2 key provisions, because I think it's worth dialoguing. One is a review of photo identification. In my home state of Wisconsin, if you go buy a 6-pack of beer, a clerk behind the bar is going to review your ID before they're able to sell you that 6-pack of beer. I don't think it's robust training that's required, and I think that the states will be able to implement photo identification upon passage and signing of this law. The second point, I think it's really important just to clarify that the bill, the Save America Act, applies to, let you get your feedback if you like, but the Save America Act applies to new voter registration. So where voter registration is already closed in a certain or given state, obviously there would by definition not be new voter registration. So some of the concerns that an individual would be impacted by this in the coming weeks would be broadly a false assertion.
Yeah. Is buying a beer a constitutional right? We have a constitutional right to vote. And, and registering to vote with all these new requirements, quite frankly, the idea that it's going to be, without, any hitch or everything's going to go smoothly. Look, I mentioned the Real ID challenges that we've had. It's taking years and billions of dollars, and then, you're rushing ahead to do this. And, again, it took over 20 years and billions of dollars to get Real ID in place, and many people still don't have them. So the idea that we can do this just in a couple of weeks is laughable. And it's either a cynical cave to MAGA extremists, or maybe that's the point, and you just want to sow some chaos in order to disenfranchise millions of voters ahead of the midterms because you guys know you're losing here. But I can't believe that this Republican majority is so careless with something as serious as the American people's access to the ballot box. The bedrock of our democracy. And I think I've made my point in the sense that that this is a total farce. Major changes in the last few days and not subject to any kind of committee oversight or debate or hearing or markup. I have to tell you, I can't believe that, you're all before the Rules Committee, bringing this legislation which is not ready for prime time. Mr. Morelli, you wanted to?
I just wanted to just remark that if you have no driver's license, but you have a student ID, that's not allowed. So if you intended to show up even at polling places in states that have photo ID, and by the way, everybody has a voter sign in, you have to prove your identity, whether in some states like Arizona and New York use handwriting and signatures. But in those states that you have photo IDs under this law now, if you had a student ID, you couldn't use it, even though it's used by students all over the place, hunting licenses, fishing licenses, firearm IDs. None of those would be allowed, and this is more restrictive than even those states that have photo ID. But that's not what this is about. And I wanted to just make one other comment, if I might, Mr. McGovern.
Yeah, you know, I'll just close by saying,
I'm sorry, may I just,
Okay,
just one other comment I want to make. You know, the premise of this, as you were talking about non-citizen voting, I always like to remark that in 2024, 80 million people who are voting eligible U.S. citizens, 80 million did not participate in this presidential election. So somehow we're supposed to believe that Democrats secretly get non-U.S. citizens to vote, even though no one can figure out how that happened or if that happened. Somehow we magically do this, and yet we can't get the 80 million voter-eligible U.S. citizens to vote, and we try to do that all the time. The whole notion of this is preposterous. There is no evidence of non-U.S. citizens voting. There's no evidence that there's a pattern of Democrats, although one witness this morning called us leftist goons, which I'm going to have to look up the definition of goon. I'm a member of Congress, but nonetheless, no evidence of it. Supposedly we arrange it secretly without ever being caught at doing it, because there's no evidence, even Speaker Johnson says so. But 80 million U.S. citizens who are voter eligible didn't cast a vote in the presidential. That's not where our focus is. It's on this imaginary thing that doesn't happen. And we'd spend billions to try to correct it.
right, and I'll just end again, because this has been stunning to hear this testimony. The fact that, Mr. Chairman, you as chairman of this committee can't even answer clearly whether or not Donald Trump won or lost Minnesota. He says he won it the last 3 times, and he won it because he said there was all this non-citizen voting, you know, rigged it against him. The fact that, and there's no evidence of that, but the fact that you can't just say, you know, he lost, and there's no evidence to prove otherwise, I just find is stunning that members of Congress are so afraid of the sitting president, are so afraid that he might, you know, be angry because you tell the truth, that you end up, again, it is what you are saying, it is what this Congress is doing that is showing a lack of confidence amongst the American public about our elections. I don't know, I find it unbelievable every time I ask a Republican a question about the election in which Donald Trump lost, and they can't answer it in a straight manner, and it's just really disappointing. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern. Ms. Fishbach, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Chairman, I just want to